Hello, my name is Tim Errickson, and I am the artistic director of the Boomerang Theater Company, and I am chatting today with playwright and screenwriter Isaac Rathbone. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, man. So let's tell everybody who you are and a little bit about you. Isaac Rathbone is a playwright and screenwriter. He has had productions of his work off-Broadway, at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, in the New York City Fringe Festival, and at the Barter Theater in Virginia. His full-length pieces have been developed at the Last Frontier Theater Conference in Valdez, Alaska, at the Great Plains Theater Conference in Fort Omaha, Nebraska, and at the Wellfleet Harbor Actors Theater Play Lab in Cape Cod. He is a three-time finalist for the Actors Theater of Louisville Heidemann Award, and his screenwriting credits have been showcased at various film festivals around the country. All right, so how's it all going? We're recording this on Monday, August 31, end of summer. It's not even hot in the city today. How's it all been going so far?
It's going well. The early days of the pandemic were pretty rough, as they were for everybody. But I'm married and I have two kids, so I called it the Swiss Family Rathbone at the beginning of the pandemic. We had to figure everything out, how to live on our own in this apartment. It took a while for us to hit a stride and get a routine down and kind of figure out what a new normal would look like. But we've had a great summer, very relaxing. It's actually been one of the silver linings to this is that our lives slowed down immensely. Mm-hmm. We weren't rushing from here to there and doing this thing and doing that thing and doing a birthday party and got the, baseball and blah, blah, blah. We kind of just stop, take deep breath, relax. We had a lot of travel plans booked for the summer, but those all went out the window. So we had a couple very low key trips out of town, which actually were wonderful. Mm-hmm. Just a time to just slow down. So that's been great. So where we are now here at the end of August is, a little bit refreshed, a little bit, cautious, but feeling good.
Yeah, that's great. And how is the neighborhood in Bay Ridge? I mean, are a lot of people out and about, and are things coming back?
Yeah. It's a very residential neighborhood. I like to call it, it's Brooklyn, but it's a little bit more suburban than some other areas. Some sections feel a little bit more like Long Island or New Jersey. So mm-hmm. It's got, we've got all of our, our restaurants and our shopping and stuff like that, but we've also had a lot of more suburban houses and neighborhoods. Bay Ridge is fine. Obviously, it was hit just like any other neighborhood, but people are wearing their masks, people are staying distant. We're lucky to have a lot of parks here, so when people come, things are kind of spread out. It's actually kind of nice the way the restaurants have set up all their restaurants out in the street where the parking is. It's actually, me and my wife joke that we hope that this actually lasts a little longer. It's got a nice fresh open feel to it. It's very warm. It's kind of nice. It makes us feel like we're all in this together, when everybody's outside eating. So yeah, we're doing well. We're doing well.
That's awesome. And how about creatively? How have you been are you getting things done? How have you been getting things done during all this?
Well, the first 2 weeks to the first month was pretty rough. Just in terms of, getting my family situated and figuring out how our lives would become normal or routine. Mm-hmm. And then also just the general anxiety over the whole thing, I'm sure which everyone went through. So, writing a play or writing a screenplay kind of was the last thing on my mind a little bit in the beginning, even though we had just copious amounts of spare time, when your brain is thinking it was almost worse not to have anything going on because, you start thinking of what happens if this, or what happens if I get sick, or what happens if this happens. And so So that first month was rough. What helped me out a lot was a lot of organizations offered free classes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so or seminars or master classes, if you
Mm-hmm.
will. And so, before the pandemic, I was very busy with my family life and other work, and so I never could quite make those work. And so all of a sudden, I took a class with the Playwright Center with Winter Miller, and that was fantastic. I'd never taken one of her classes before, and so that was just a great break and just a way to like refresh. Playwrights Horizons had a lot of master classes, and so I was able to participate in the one with Larissa Fasthorse, and that that was really cool. I mean, I didn't actively participate.
No, but yeah,
I just sat there and listened, and that was fantastic. She was very warm and encouraging, and talked a lot about representation in theater, and just kind of what she does, like her own just normal creative practices. And so that was great. And so, taking that time to like listen to other writers during this time was a great way to just like hit the reset button a little bit and kind of, get my creative legs under me again.
Yeah. Taking classes has been such a huge, I mean, with everybody so distant, the opportunities for taking classes or seminars has increased, I feel like, exponentially, because you can now get in touch with people who are anywhere in the world and sign them up to do a masterclass. I sat in on one, I think through the Playwright Center, with Jose Rivera.
Yeah.
Which was fantastic. And he was in Los Angeles, the Playwright Center's in Minneapolis. Here I am in New York, and like here we are all connected to this, something that never would have happened in probably another way.
Yeah. I also sat through a 1 hour master class on TV writing, on like creating like a show Bible or pitch deck or whatever with
last week.
Yeah,
me too.
Oh yeah, okay, great. Yeah, and that was great. Like just really like your basic information from different perspectives, from like a writer, producer, etc. And just if this wasn't all happening, I probably would have gotten the invite on Facebook or whatever and just said, oh, I'd really like to do that, but I've got ABCD going on, so I can't do it. So that's been kind of nice to enrich myself with some of these online classes.
Yeah, that's awesome. And are you getting any writing done now that things have sort of settled down a little bit?
Yeah. I definitely got back into like a new routine. So I, told myself like, I wasn't one of those people that said, oh my God, I've got all this free time. I'm going to write King Lear, I'm going to write my 500-page novel or my epic trilogy that I've always dreamed of. I just said, you know what, today I'm just going to get 4 pages of writing done, no matter what it is, whether it's a screenplay I'm working on or a new play or short story or whatever. And so I just kind of started with small goals every day. Mm-hmm. And that's actually something that Larissa Fasthorse talked about. She said, set a goal and then hit your goal and then stop. Don't do any more.
Wow.
She said, and I found that really interesting, and so I've kind of stuck to that. I mean, I wake up every day and I say, okay, I'm going to get this much done, but I don't sit there and say, all right, I'm getting 50 pages done. I said, it's somewhere between like 5 to maybe 15 or something like that. And then if I hit that, and then I walk away.
Is the rationale that you've accomplished your thing and pat yourself on the back and like celebrate that? Or
and then you can kind of just you're not like exhausting yourself trying to force something. Like even when you're creatively in it, there is a limit to how far you can go, Mm-hmm. And so if you like go in with a certain goal in mind and you hit it, you feel so much better than, let's suppose you write 20 pages, but the last like 4 pages, you just like, running out of gas. That's not to say I'll pick it up later in the day if I feel inspired, but I won't sit down and say, okay, I'm going to rock out this. I'll just, I'll write it by hand. I'll maybe like watch something or read something that's kind of in similar vein of what I'm thinking. But I found that to be incredibly helpful, especially now where we have all this free time in your schedule, that you don't feel the need to like fill it all up with your creative work.
That's super smart.
So that's one way that I've been dealing with it. It's interesting. When I first had kids and they were toddlers and they'd run around, I couldn't get anything done, nothing. And when I did, it would be in like spurts, it would be like late at night or whatever. And I kind of kept that energy with me as they got older. And now that they're older, my kids are 10 and 8. They understand what I do now. They understand that I like to write stuff. They've seen one of my plays. They've seen some of the screen work that I've done. And so they get it now, and they also like to be part of that energy. And that's been kind of something that's been really cool in the last year, but specifically during the pandemic, where if I sit down and say, okay, I'm working on this project, and I'll talk to them about it. You know what I mean? It's like not something I could do before.
Right.
And they're like really into it. And then that might inspire them to do something creatively or to just leave me alone because they know that's important to me. So that's been really nice. And that's been kind of a fun journey as a parent, especially when in a creative field where your kids start to like learn like, oh, there's a process to this.
Yeah.
Or like, especially if they get to see what you do or meet people that you work with, it's a little bit of a reward. So that's been helping me out a lot in the last few months.
That's awesome. It didn't ever occur to me that your kids would be, and not that your kids wouldn't be interested in what you write, but that their acknowledgement of it as part of what dad does every day, and how they want to respect it or play within it or whatever, or inspire themselves with it.
Yeah. They, we've done some creative projects together, like some little stop motion videos and things like that. Mm-hmm. That was also part of our homeschooling throughout the pandemic. We as like in the arts community and who have kids, we always complain that our kids' school doesn't do enough for the arts, which is generally true. We're not doing enough for the arts. So now our kids are home. So now it's like, put your money where your mouth is. So, every couple days, we would do some kind of creative artistic project together. Or, we watch, I studied film in school and doing some screenwriting. We'd watch a film they're familiar with, like let's say Star Wars. And mm-hmm. I would start breaking things down a little technically with them, just so they know, like, I know what the hell I'm talking about, so then when I'm working on a creative project, they understand that, this isn't just just some random hobby dad's picking up. It's something he's done, he's experienced in, he's learned about. So that's just been another interesting turn in parenting that I didn't expect. It's been a pleasant surprise, actually.
Yeah, I bet. When you are writing and you are cranking pages, do you have a particular place in the house that you want to be in, or is there music on? Do the kids give you some space? Like how's the physical work happen?
I'll jump around. I used to have a desktop. Now I have a laptop. Mm-hmm. So I jump around a lot. I do a lot of writing by hand when I'm doing the early stuff as well. So there's a couple surfaces, like I've got a desk, I've got, the kitchen table, the couch somewhere. And that was kind of common also through the pandemic, where my wife is a performing arts teacher and had to teach her classes on Zoom. So sometimes she would want to kind of move around just to break up the monotony a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so I've, over the years, have developed a comfort level with being able to move throughout the house. I'm one of those writers that has to write inside, because if I go outside, I get way too distracted with everything. Like when I'm like a dog. When I get outside, I gotta run.
Squirrel.
Yeah, exactly. Like I have a lot of respect for writers who can go out into the middle of the woods and write and get all this work done. Because when I'm out there, I want to, I just want to look around.
Yeah.
So it's got to be inside. And so in the house, I generally will listen to music. If there's actually a lot of like hubbub going on out in the street, I won't. It's kind of interesting to be part of that energy.
Mm-hmm.
But usually I'll put on some music. I'll put on I've got noise canceling headphones, I put those on to really focus and get in. And I put some music on. I drink a lot of water, so I just make sure I've got my water bottle filled up. But I try to pick a place that's, isolated, but still, I can still be part of the action if I need to be.
Yeah.
If I need to like break up a wrestling match with the kids, or if I have to like make lunch, or, if my wife Jen has some issue that I need to like help out with, I'm always available.
Yeah.
But I'm very flexible within the house. As long as I get like my time, as long as
Mm-hmm.
people like let me just sit there for however long I need, then I'm pretty flexible with wherever.
Do you generally start working in the morning or afternoon?
I like to start 2 hours after I wake up, where I find like that's the best time for me to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So if I wake up at say 6:30 or 7, like right around like 8:45, 9 o'clock is when I find I write the best.
Yeah.
I can do it later in the day, or I can force myself to do it later in the day. But my favorite time to do it, and my most productive time to do it, is generally like between 8 a.m. and say noon. That like 4-hour window.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I like to do it. I don't always get that, but that's kind of what I aim for. And I've actually worked it into my schedule now that things are, now that there is no schedule. So my family's been very good about that. They're, I tell them, okay, I'm going to go write for however long. And it's like I'm going to work a little bit. It's like, all right, bye, see you later.
And does that apply the same if you're creating new stuff, or if you're revising, or if you're in, rewrites?
Yeah, pretty much. The thing about like when I'm revising, if I'm actually like reading and like taking a red pen to a script,
Mm-hmm.
that I don't have to do first thing in the morning, that I can wait a little bit. I have like a weird habit when I edit, I have to read a script 3 times through before I go and rewrite it. So even if usually the first pass is just a quick read.
Yeah.
It's like, highlighting things that I like or didn't like. And then the next 2, it's more in depth. So I could read, I used to do on the subway back when we used to ride the subway.
What's the subway?
Yeah. But then when it comes down to actually like the actual physical action of rewriting, then yeah, it's got to be generally in the morning.
And what about, a lot of your stuff is historically influenced, if not based. So when do you like to get the time to do research or make notes on stuff?
I'll generally try to do that in like an afternoon, or, when it's afternoon or evening, those kind of things. I like to use the morning to actually write, and then use the other parts of the day to do research, to watch a film or, television series, if that pertains to whatever historical event or person that I'm working on. So that's a little bit more flexible, because that's just kind of, to me, that's just digging, that's just quick research. I'm just like looking for nuggets, as opposed to like formulating how to make them interesting to somebody else.
When you're doing stuff on historical figures or historical events, do you generally try to do all of that or some of that research, or how much of that research, I should say, before you actually start putting words down? Do you get the pot sort of simmering before you start to write, or do they go hand in hand?
They kind of go hand in hand, I found. You find out about a historical event, and it's very similar to when you come up with a fictional story, where like you have something that you really want in this story, or there's something about this story that really attracts you, whether it was like a certain event or a certain aspect of their character. And I kind of start with that, with researching a little bit and writing it. Sometimes I'll write it without ever researching it, just thinking like, just knowing a little bit about it and thinking, well, what would I think about it? Or from what I know of the time period, what's going through their mind. And then I'll go back and start really doing the research and then kind of piecing it together.
So sort of retrofitting it after the fact?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Is that a hard process once do you fall in love with the thing you wrote and then have to?
That happens, but you just kind of have to, well, that's kind of where like the rehearsal process comes in handy so much for theater, is that if you fall in love with something while you're writing it, and then you actually get in the studio and you hear the performer actually read it, that'll make you fall out of love with it very quickly. So
what do you possibly mean?
So yeah, so that's why I love writing for theater in that way, as opposed to writing for like a short story where, it's really up to the reader, as opposed to, you don't get this development process that theater gives you. And with film, things move so slow and then so fast that, you don't have time to really, get it right.
Yeah. If you ever find yourself getting stuck, or you come up with a thing that you just can't crack for whatever reason, is there a piece of advice or something that you try to remind yourself of that allows you to either recenter yourself or maybe push through or whatever you need that keeps you motivated and going?
I just kind of push myself, and just like, if I have to write something I don't like, or I feel is lazy, or if I feel is not up to par, I'll just write it. I'm a really big fan of whiteboards or like yellow legal pads, and I will just kind of just sketch it out, just kind of like write it out. Like, what do I know about this, what I'm writing? What do I want it to be about? And the great thing about a whiteboard and a legal pad is that when you're done and you read it and you take it in, you erase it or you throw it out, and that feels like you're ready to kind of move on. So I feel that being able to just have, and that's actually important to be by myself. That's actually a time where I'll put the headphones on, I'll tell everybody leave me alone, or I'll do it when nobody's there, like when I do have time alone, and I'll just go crazy on a whiteboard, or I'll just go crazy on a legal pad, and just you just write out why you're stuck, like why am I writing this story, or why am I so interested in this character, what, like, as a person or as an audience member. And you just kind of like, and if you end up writing like, I hate this, I don't know why I'm doing this, or like, what have I got myself into, or that's very therapeutic to get yourself unstuck. And so, but then it's important to just get rid of it. And then you feel like you've kind of just, let it, like, taken a deep breath mentally. So
it seems almost like a creative purge in a way.
Yeah, it definitely helps. And I use it like, not just creatively, just like when, you're trying to just figure something out in your life, or like your own like personal schedule isn't working, or just something like, when things just don't quite feel they're working, I just find to just take a step back and, write it out like in front of you, especially the whiteboard I like, because I can write it and then you just take a step back and you read it and it's literally right in front of you, and it helps you just, just process it.
Yeah. Do you have a whiteboard in your house?
I do, yeah.
In the den?
It's above my desk where I do most of my writing. Though during the pandemic, my youngest son took over my desk, so I didn't have it anymore. So, which is fine. It was fine. At least he was doing his work, and he was
sure. Yeah.
Great. But yeah, I mounted it on my wall right above my desk, and it's magnetic, so I can like hang little pictures or quotes or anything like that. But it allows me to just, if something's just not working, you just write the character's name, or you write the action, the part of the story that's driving
Yeah.
you nuts. And then you kind of like map it, or you just, just go to town. And
Do you do a lot of sticking things to the board? Like, do you sort of like, I mean, I know some people, I have not done this, but I know some people when they're writing will like make a Pinterest board and like, here's all these images, or like, almost like a pitch deck in a way, but like not really.
sometimes.
Mood board.
Yeah. I mean, I'll sometimes do that, but that's usually if I'm like looking for something really specific or really inspirational. Specifically, if I'm doing like a historical story,
Yeah.
I'll like, I will Google image this person or this event or artwork based on this, and that'll kind of get things flowing a little bit, So that I'll do. But in terms of like getting inspired by other medium or other things, it's more about like, I kind of want this thing that I'm working on to feel emotionally like this other thing. Like I love music. Like that's another thing that's got me through this whole thing is like I've constantly had music on. So like that's constantly inspiring me. So like 9 times out of 10 when I'm working on a project, usually like actually theater, I don't know why, but theater, I will find like an artist or a song, and I'll say, I want the same emotional connection I have to this song, to this creative thing.
Yeah.
Even if it's two totally different, two totally different things where it's like, I'm working on this World War, like I just adapted my great grandfather's World War I journal last year, and I'm currently rewriting it. And there's a section of it that I want to feel like a certain Radiohead song, so that's, so I'll listen to that kind of stuff to Radiohead or Tom York as I'm working on that particular section. So music is like a saving grace for me creatively.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have, I know your screenwriting has sort of been going around the country and like in festivals and finalists for awards and stuff. Is there anything that you want to plug or anything that's coming up that you want to talk about?
What's coming up?
Yeah.
I've been, as you know, I've been working on a screen adaptation of my one-act play. It's called Deb and Joan, and it's a story of an android who falls in love with a human scientist before she goes off on a deep space mission. It's like a sci-fi love story. It's gotten some traction on the festival screenplay circuit, and so we're hoping to produce that in the coming days once things are, when we're able to do that.
Yeah.
So that's something that I've been working on like the production end. In terms of like new creative work, I've been, as I'm sure a lot of writers, I've been working on these 2 dystopian kind of plays. I don't know why, but
what could possibly cause that?
I've also been trying to do this with this time period is like balancing out. So I've got these 2 dystopian projects that I have drafts done that I'm working on. They're very dark. And then I'm working on a screen series with John Wiggins, who's an actor and collaborator.
Oh, yes.
And we're working on a TV series kind of about the exodus out of New York that people are experiencing right now.
Oh, wow.
But it's something light, it's something like that about a lifelong New Yorker who moves to the Catskills kind of thing. So I'm trying to balance out the dark and the light as we get through here. So I don't, so I get my anxieties out in one format and then like my positive stuff in another. So yeah, that's
the dark and the light. That's the balance.
Yeah, you got to find it.
Awesome. Buddy, it's been great to talk to you.
Yeah, this is great.
Thanks so much for doing this, and we will see you soon. Best of luck to the boys in flag football.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, we'll see.
All right. See ya.
Yeah.